Welcome everyone. August 8th meeting. We all seem to be in attendance now. With that, I'd like to start in with the approval of the agenda.
Mr. President, can we add the wheel-lock locking thing to the agenda, please?
Pending litigation. Any questions on the agenda? Otherwise, I'm looking for it.
Get a motion.
Can you get a motion?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes of the regular council meeting this July 11th, 2016.
All set with that motion? I'll second.
You didn't approve of the agenda first.
Yes.
Cafferty? Yes. Moran?
Yes. No.
Baldwin?
Yes. The approval of the minutes from a regular council meeting, July 11th, 2016.
I make a motion we approve the minutes for July 11th, 2016.
Support.
Any other discussion? Roll call.
Horton?
Yes.
Cafferty? Yes. Moran?
Yes.
Dick?
Yes.
Baldwin?
The treasurer's report, which is our purple sheet. Discussion? Comments? I'm looking for a motion to,
Make a motion we approve the treasurer's report for August 8th, 2016.
Support. Horton?
Yes.
Cafferty? Yes. Moran?
Yes.
Dick?
No.
Baldwin?
yes. The bills and transfer, green sheet.
Are you doing, Mr. President, I'm sorry, are you doing last month's?
I would have to go over
First.
that one too. We can do that, yes. Very good, thank you. Let's do last month. It should be the 6/1/2016 to 6/30/16.
Make a motion we approve bills and transfer from 6/01/2016 to 6/30/2016.
I'll support that.
Mr. President, quick discussion if I may, please.
Yes.
On the back of that back of the first sheet, second sheet that I'm referring to, there was questions on it, there was 1, 2s, and 3s, and that's kind of why we tabled this until today. But my question is for checks 10-340, 341, 342, and 343, those are voided. Did we just not write checks for those? Is there a reason why those got voided?
Probably an error in the check, or another bill came in, so they doubled.
It would be better if it said voided on,
I'm just assuming that's what that V stands for on the right side.
we're assuming, we can off it was written on there.
But I think if we could going forward, if the check was written, you know, say it was written to, then it void.
I understand,
Yeah.
and I agree.
Okay.
That will be noted.
If you look at the next page, it says 5 voided checks. Just
Which one?
clarification. On the last page, it says 5 voided checks. It doesn't say who it should.
Right, I see that now.
That still needs to be on there too. Makes sense. Okay, we're all set. We're looking for a roll call on that.
Horton?
Yes.
McCafferty? Yes. Moran?
Yes.
Dick?
No.
Baldwin?
Yes. The bills and transfers from 7/1/2016, 7/31/2016. Discussion?
Quick question, on number 3 coming down for Bedrock Express, it says for insurance escrow, is that the money that we got for the park? That's what the screen topsoil and stuff was used for?
Who's got an answer?
It was escrow money for the insurance, yes.
Okay, so my follow-up question that would be, because I was looking in the budget, and I could be mistaken, which, I am sometimes, that if we had money that came and we're using it as an expense now, other than the repairs of the shed from the tree, shouldn't it have been shown somewhere in the budget as a revenue, so we can show it as an expense going out?
It's an escrow.
It's not.
What's your question?
No?
It's still earmarked for the parks, the insurance.
Right, you understand what I'm saying, though, because we're not using that money that we got now for the repairs of what we got the actual insurance money for. So now we're showing it as a different expense that didn't actually go towards the sheds or the repairs, so it should be showed as somewheres in our budget revenues now that we're using as revenue coming in for this fiscal year in an expense tab for the actual parks itself.
I assume that was for seeding and doing things down there, covering up from
Park, yeah.
the park, which was part of the damage from the storm. We had to redo our
You
electrical.
can use that money for anything.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Then I'm looking for a motion to accept the check register for the village.
I make a motion to accept bills and transfer from 7:01 to 7:31, 2016.
I'll support that. Roll call, please.
Horton,
Yes.
McCafferty. Yes. Maury,
Yes.
Chick,
No?
Walton,
First round of public comment. This is agenda items. On the first round of public comment, please. 3 minutes. Who wants to speak?
Mr. Baldwin, last month I presented a question to you, and I never received an answer from you, so I'm hoping you did a little bit of your investigating on the legal fees that we have paid Mr. McKinney up to this point regarding the lawsuit. Did you get an answer, what the tally is of what we're paying, what we've paid Mr. McKinney up to this point?
You know I'm not going to respond. You can speak. I will not respond.
I didn't expect you to.
Okay?
I didn't expect you to. What I do expect you to do is to answer to the community what our tax dollars are paying Mr. McKinney up to this point for the lawsuit. Because on the agenda, under new business, you're hiring this new law firm to do a deck action. So why do we have Mr. McKinney representing the village when we gotta hire a new law firm to do that? And I know you won't answer me. So my question is, for the public, people need to know what we have paid up to this point or what we're gonna be billed for this lawsuit. What's the tally up to this point? I'm sure there's a running tab that's going. So I would assume that you, being president, you should get this information for the public. Because we have a right to know how much we are paying Mr. McKinney to represent the village. Because apparently, he thought it was okay for him to represent us without going towards the insurance company. Going to ask the insurance company to cover us on this lawsuit. So he's run up the tab, and how much it is, we can only assume, because you don't give out answers. But we need to know. The last thing I would like to say, from listening to your check register and everything, I agree. I think everything should be documented for the public to know. I don't believe having voided checks just at the bottom, voided checks, 5 checks voided. We need to know what that amount is for and what it was for and why was it voided. That information is public knowledge. It should be public. It's just not going to be ignored. The last thing, or I said that was the last thing, but this is also part of the check registry. But when you, we had discussed this last month, when you spend over 500, don't you have to get an approval through the council to spend that amount if it's over 500? I think we need to review that. Thank you.
Yeah, he doesn't answer. It's useless.
You know? If not, let's move on. Unfinished business, the Park and Recs Committee.
Want to take that, Shannon?
I,
I'm not your mother this morning, but you're here.
right now, I arrived, late for that meeting because of, a work issue. However, they were, voting on, park signs with hours and, a rule sign to be posted on the shed. And also added to that sign was going to be the information on who to contact if you would like to reserve the park for, at a personal event, corporate event, whatever you were gonna reserve the park for. We were also wondering about the, on Hegel Road where the park boundaries are. And also the dumpster that is affiliated with the phone company that's there, and if they were grandfathered in to not have that enclosed, which we have found out that, yes, they are grandfathered in. However, if the Parks and Rec Committee would like to do something to get that dumpster enclosed, we can always present something to council to, see about having that done, just to make the turnaround area look a little bit prettier. Also, where they, put the monument sign, there is some, mulch that's there that's not being held back by anything, and they're afraid of runoff. If there's rain, snow, high winds, possibly putting a cement curb just to make that area a little bit prettier and make it easier when it comes to snow plowing. And I believe that is it. Is anybody else from Parks and Rec here with a comment? I don't think so.
They also have been discussing a split rail fence up there, and I believe they have approval from council to spend, the estimate is $450, but maybe not to exceed $500 to put the split rail fence along the top of the hill and across the driveway.
Jackie, is that why they're trying to, I'm sorry, I was writing the address. Is that why they're trying to address, where the property lines are at, right there on Hingo Road?
The property lines were being addressed, for the split rail fence and also for, the dumpster enclosure. Is that dumpster encroaching on the park property per se, or is it truly on the telephone company's property? And if an enclosure were to be required, then I don't know if there's, issues on how far away it has to be from a property line. Like a shed has to be so many feet away from a property line. Would a dumpster enclosure fall within those parameters? So they were just trying to see if there was a site survey, just to identify Parks and Rec ground opposed to somebody else's property.
Should the Parks and Recs be addressing the planning commissions for an idea or a drawing to see if they have any insight of, because they kind of give their own opinions, and when somebody wants to build something in the town or if something were to come up and they may have some issues or concerns or good ideas on how this thing should be forwarded before it actually comes to us from the recreational committee.
We don't have anything to do with people's survey. I can look at the plat map and we can measure it out about the extent of it. Ethan measured it out. It's a pretty interested in putting that up, I would be looking for a motion to allocate up to $500 as money in the budget. This type of thing.
Has anyone talked to anybody from the telephone company to find out, what they feel?
I believe Angie was gonna, talk to somebody at the telephone company to see, they had, I guess, talked to them before and talked about dumpster placement and parking. But like I said, I was delayed in getting to that meeting to absorb full detail of it all.
We might want to look into how much a survey would cost. We probably should know where that's at before we put a fence up there. I mean, I wouldn't want to take one of the employees from the telephone companies worried on where the property lines are. Nor anybody that works for the DPW here, I would question that too.
Survey would probably cost $700-800.
You're probably in that vicinity, but maybe we could look and get some estimates before we move forward. That would be my thoughts. That way we at least know where the boundaries are. Which we might want to know.
I'd also agree with that. I think we need to do a little more due diligence before we pass any motions for money being spent on the fence that may or may not be able to go. I would also be curious to see.
Be able to go up if there was an issue with it. It could be cut to 5 feet on that portion, or.
Right, my concerns are is that we're looking for motion to get $500 to put a split rail fence, but I don't know how long the fence is gonna be, if we're gonna keep an opening on top. What the actual, long-term idea is, if you will, if there's gonna be any kind of pathway walking down, is it gonna be like stepping stones, is it gonna be wood, is it gonna be handicap accessible? I mean, all these things gotta be into consideration. I mean, I appreciate what Parks and Rec is doing, trying to take some initiative into this park, I said, but again, like last meeting, I'd like to see some ideas on paper that are actually presented instead of just short little projects here and there. I remember a nice beautiful young lady came in here about a year or so ago, maybe two, that wanted to put a splash pad down there, and she was told that nothing could be done because we don't know what's gonna be happening with the dam. However, there still seems to be projects, small that they may be, that continue to happen. So again, I would just like to see a little more detailed project on paper, if you will.
With the dressing and opening at the top, that was discussed with the beauty of the split rail fence, where you don't have to have those adjoining rails. They could be removed to allow for an opening at the top. And if money was in a Parks and Rec budget and or grant money for a park beautification project to allow handicap accessibility, it would have to be like a zigzag coming down the hill.
We have plans all set out for that, but we can't get grant money because it goes into what,
Right, yeah, the floodplain.
we've tried many times. And there is, again, with the split rail fence, to put snow over that hill, they would be taking one of the sections out during the winter so that they can put the snow over the shed. That is not a public driveway going up that hill. People might think it is, but it's not.
No, but I was under the impression that maybe I misspoke and I apologize, but I wasn't trying to refer to that as a driveway, but as a pathway. I know that was discussed at the Parks and Recs for having access down to the park, because some people like to park up on top.
I'd like to see separations in it to where, that you can walk through there. Maybe up closer to the creek or whatever, and then maybe midway, an area that there was a separation in the fence, where you didn't have to take apart any split rail fence, but
Yeah,
something that was 32 inches wide enough for a wheelchair, if you will, even though it'd be a heck of a ride. But I think some kind of a drawing of some nature, before we. I think some kind of a drawing, and then I still think we should look into a survey. I think it would make a lot of sense. I know that there's a bunch of wires that come in on that one side of that building, isn't it?
goes all the way to the park.
Yeah.
Mostly they're at the street or something.
The whole system goes through the park.
Who would be doing the installment of the fence?
Probably DPW.
A combination of the village volunteers and the DPW would drill holes for the post.
You better call Miss Dave.
Yeah, easy to do that. Sure.
After it rains.
Where do we stand? What do we wanna do?
Well, it sounds like we have a consensus and we're looking, well, at least between myself and you, Mr. President, that we would like to see some kind of a drawing and get the land surveyed before we go any further.
And I know it's not much of an improvement, but still, it gives you a lot of trouble.
Not trying to block the fence by no means, I just wanna make sure we do our due diligence, do it properly.
Anybody else? Mr. Moore?
So you want me to get estimates on a survey, what I'm hearing?
If that's a consensus of council, it's,
I have a question. Could I get the information from the telephone company as to the size of their building, how much property they really own? Because that's what William said, we can't be putting fences up on their property. They ought to be able to stake it and let us know what is their property. Obviously, if they know what theirs is, ours, I'd be pretty easy to figure out, but that's all there's left over.
That's not a survey.
DPW has had many conversations with them
That,
over the years.
yeah, I believe that too. Okay.
do you wanna leave it at that, to where, maybe we can look in to see how much a survey would cost, and we can also explore the possibilities if they can provide us information on their property boundaries before we
I
go
asked
forward?
the county if they would give us what they did down there, and they don't have it in that format. Whatever that format is, because they just surveyed all that. Up at the top, just two different parcels. But nobody has any pull.
Council, what do you wanna do?
We gotta get a survey to see what we own. I don't think it's too much to ask for a quick little hand sketch of it.
Or make doggone sure that the telephone company can tell you exactly where their corners
Yeah.
are. If they would write off on it, that keeps you out of trouble.
I think coming from the telephone company, it would have to come more from, you know, a legal document rather than just average Joe saying, yeah, it goes from here to here.
It's probably iron in the ground.
You might get-
Iron in the ground.
You might get a surveyor just come in and find the iron and you'll be done with it.
Do you think we find this guy?
Ethan might be able to find it with his too. So, if he can measure it out close enough, if the iron's not down too far, you can find it.
Well, if that's the case, it's my understanding, and this is rumor mill that I heard, but the telephone company gave us that section of property that's up there.
No, that belongs to Goodrich Manufacturing.
The old telephone company used to be
To the
there,
right of it.
somewhere in that
They
area.
had set, the old telephone building set where the flower garden is now.
So then they moved the central office where it is now.
And then when they bought it, they built a new office, and they tore it down. And the mill and manufacturing was in behind it, where the turnaround is. That mill came up right to the top of the hill. That drive going down there that we just seeded and put the wires in, that was a driveway to get to the back. One of the driveways to get back into the back of the building. They also had one where we come off Erie Street in their day until it burned.
Just trying to see if there's any history, if there would be any iron in the ground at the old time, being that old.
Shall we table this and see if we can get more information for next month?
That'd be my recommendation.
Bring in a drawing next month.
Just have an idea of what we're gonna do, a drawing of what they're proposing for the fence and some
See
boundaries.
if we can find iron.
Telephone companies get mad when you put stuff on their property.
You know, a lot of stuff we don't want to cut. If we're set with that one, number 2 is a report, street administrator.
For me? Oh, well, we got Dutch Road chloride a little bit early because Atlas Township was doing the other end. So we graded it and got it done. Last year, the school piggybacked on us for where they pick the kids up, and I got them set up now where they just call a company. We don't have to bill them, and they write us a check and put it back in. They can get their own billing now. Probably the next 10 days, the rest of them will be graded and chlorided before school starts. We're still pouring catch basins. We tore one apart the other day and found out why it went back. There's a big cast iron ring on the top of it, it broke, so you can look for about a $450 bill to replace that, so they can fix it. That's just the ring. It busted, it let water in, and that's why it went bad. Never seen one break before, but this one did. They've been doing a lot of watering, like everybody else. No rain, plants gotta have water. They hope to pour early in the morning, cause they're doing a curb, and in the afternoon, boy, you pour curbs dry and it's hard to keep it up and get it done. Other than that, they're doing a good job.
Final one,
Nothing.
water and waste,
Meetings next week.
Shannon,
You have the sheriff's report.
you have the sheriff's report. Shannon, you want to comment on anything?
No, I'm good.
Number 3 is code enforcement.
He's just working on what he needs to work on.
And administrative.
A couple things. Goodrich volunteers, have requested to council, to be allowed to paint the benches downtown. I know they're painted, green, but they have a volunteer, Karen Huizinga. She worked on benches in Lapeer, and they just put some type of, a picture on there, that's in good taste, obviously. So we're just looking for support for her to do that. We may end up buying the paint, but I don't really think it would cost a whole lot of money to do that. It would put some art downtown.
So we would be out just the material, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, and I'm not really sure on that. This is just, from Angie came in today that, Karen would, start with the library bench once the Goodrich Volunteers is finished, doing the refurbishing on it.
Free labor is always good.
I think it would add to the town, personally.
You know what kind of pictures are going on?
Let me see, Angie says, it would be simple art, nothing bizarre, no nudity, sex, politics, or drugs. Just what Angie said.
Jackie, don't we have a few benches along at 50?
Yes.
Are they part of the project?
Yes.
Okay.
She may not do every single one, or she may not get them all done this year, but in Florida, they paint the telephone poles, and some artist goes through and paints them, and they look really nice. So if nobody has a problem, I can tell her to go ahead, or,
Council, anybody's all set with
No,
that?
I
I have
have
no issues with it. My only concerns would be, type of paint that we get is gonna hold up for weather purposes, or is it just gonna look nice for a year and then our weather hits it and it starts, you know.
well, this woman is an artist, so she would know, I would assume, what kind of paint's gonna hold up on wood benches.
Get
And she
Ethan,
did it in Lapeer.
get Ethan to oversee it, he's gonna know what kind of paint we want to put on it anyway.
Or she is, so. And we may not have to buy the paint, and don't really need a motion to buy the paint, unless you wanna make a motion to buy the paint.
That's slow.
So,
Council, we're good with that?
Yep.
We're good with that. Sidewalks?
wait, I have one more.
Oh, one more.
Just for your information, the planning commission is having a public hearing on the 22nd. Well, two public hearings. First, our general business district and our industrial district. We took a look at it, and the industrial district is the only place that you could put a tattoo parlor. And since that was written in 1991, I think tattoo parlors have come a long way in what they look like and what they do. So they are having a public hearing to listen to input from anyone as to whether or not they would like to change that to include, remove it from industrial and include it in general business. And there's also a public hearing on rezoning the property across the street, I mentioned it to you. That there's a proposed apartment complex across the street, in the vacant property. And there'll be a public hearing on that too.
And the date on that once again was?
Monday the 22nd.
Second.
And during budget time, I used 10% as an estimate for the insurance cost, and the insurance proposal is 7.37 increase instead of 10.
That's good.
He's just doing.
Good job.
That's all I have. I don't know anything about sidewalks unless somebody, well, I do. Sidewalks, we've been meeting for safe routes to school, and we can get $4,000 in safe routes money to do replacement of some of our sidewalks in the village that the kids use, like on Seneca, not Ridge, we can install them on Ridge, but we can do it on Eagle Road too. So I'm looking into that to bring it to council.
Good.
Each school can get up to $4,000. That's all.
Number 6, attorneys. I assume there's no report here. Brings us to our fireworks ordinance 147. Please.
This is something that we discussed quite a while ago. Had Mr. McKinney write this up. It is pretty much word for word for what Atlas Township has. And then we have just information about fireworks and what happens to the environments and pets and people that have seizures, just for you to review before we got here. The ordinance would take effect on 8/23. If it's adopted tonight, it's published on Saturday, and it would be effective on 8/23. Anybody have any questions for me? As best I can.
Any discussion on this? Any comments from anyone?
Motion?
Otherwise,
Who would enforce it?
Sure.
Sure.
Says right on there. Somebody calls and they come up.
This is pretty much the same thing as Atlas Township.
Mr. President, I'll make a motion to adopt ordinance number 147, adding sections 20-255 through 20-264 to be adopted today on 8/8/16, published 8/13/16, and effective 8/23/16.
Support.
Horton,
Yes.
McCafferty,
Yes.
Maury,
Yes.
Dick,
Yes.
Alden.
Yes.
Let me keep going.
Uh,
The Energy Corporation, they have not gotten back with me. Pat and I are pulling some of the past bills so that we can get an idea of if we went with this company last year, what we would have saved. We can't project the future, but we can kind of give you an idea of the past. So maybe next month we will have that information to pass on to you. The open burn ordinance, this is just a sample. Mr. McKinney would be putting that together. That would amend our ordinance already to prohibit the burning of leaves and household goods in the village.
Question on this, Mr. President. There's a lot of, if I may, there's a lot of residents that, let's just say, live outside of downtown, where I think this ordinance is supposed to be addressing, that have a lot of trees that like to burn, obviously their leaves. Household goods I would be good with, we shouldn't be burning household goods anyway. I don't know if we can get a little more language and get it narrowed down to what specifically you guys are looking for. I think the village and Goodrich as a whole is a bit much.
When we did the, I'm sorry, were you done?
Yes.
When we did the wood burning stove, we made it so that it was effective for people with an acre or more. That would be they would be allowed. We could do something on that order.
And this is more directed towards, you know, the household and leaves than anything. We could make sure it gets written in that one too, if you're talking about people burning brush. No, it doesn't do the same, it doesn't do the same effect as the burning of the leaves in the household, you know, garbage brush.
And the rest of the ordinance allows for burning trees and that kind of stuff as supplies.
Hot fires, clean fires.
We would just leave that in.
And I could appreciate that, but you know, well, here, I'll just give you an example. I like to burn a lot of crap, mince a lot of trees, because I do a lot of clearing at the house. But leaves are on the branches, and you rake up your yard, and sometimes there's a big pile of leaves, and you throw it on there, and I hate to have an ordinance in here to where somebody say, hey, Mr. Vick's burning leaves. And realistically, I'm just clearing trees, burning brushes, and cleaning up my yard and throwing it down. Just use that as an example.
I think the biggest problem with burning leaves, people burn them wet, they don't burn, they smoke.
I agree with you on that.
And there are times, you know.
If they're dry, they're gone in a second,
Yeah.
but if they're wet,
We have a pretty good understanding.
stays low, fills the
Yeah.
neighborhood
We
up.
make phone calls and make sure the neighbors' windows are closed when we're lighting them.
I know that there was one particular day last fall that downtown here was tearing, it was a gorgeous day, and get upset about it.
Yeah.
You like the smell.
Well, this is something that we need to do a little research on, get some opinions, talk to some people. It's just opens up the,
In your packet, there's also information on burning. Again, just some background information. If you wanted this to become effective for the fall burning, you would need to get this to Mr. McKinney, and hopefully get it back and adopted in September, and we'll be going through another fall with that.
Jackie, that'd be a good thing too, to put in the local paper about, in the fall, not burning leaves, that kind of thing, because I know a person, I'm related to the bird leaves, for about 60 years. They hadn't burned a house yet, even his neighbor's house was still alive, so. We got an idea, I'll talk to him about it too, and I'll be interested to see his comment, but in the end,
Oh, yeah,
probably the paper.
I'm well, like I say, the ordinance requires a permit for burning brush, burning, some of the other types of things that have been listed that would remain in there. This would just primarily be this statement that would be added to the ordinance. The ordinance is online, where I can put copies in everybody's box. The other ordinance, very good.
One last question that I would have, in the cities that have these ordinances where you can't burn leaves, they provide a service to where you can put the leaves in the street and have it picked up, or do we have that service now?
put in bags, we
We
have.
have compost. That's why we got compost, so that people wouldn't burn, but we didn't change the ordinance at that time.
You bag them, they'll pick them up. Or you,
You pay for
You
it
can
on
mulch 'em.
your garbage system.
The service is available. Should be taking advantage of it.
So do you want me to pass this on to Tom and have him work it up with making sure that brush includes any leaves that are on there? Sizes or anything like that, and add that in there? Or what? What's your pleasure?
I think 11, yeah. We need a little more detail on what this is, like now, just, Shane's kind of agreeing with me a little bit on here.
Yeah.
I don't think this
Yeah,
should be affecting everybody within the village, because I think a downtown something, I think that should be considered. I would definitely agree with that, because you can't really run away from it, but again, we got a lot of houses in the outskirts that are in the village. I don't think one ordinance here should be affecting everybody.
And the wood burner is, what was it, 1 acre, they had to have 1 acre to have that?
I can look at that again, because it basically does the same thing, and we haven't had any issues with that.
But it's about clean, hot fires, that's what you're after, you know, I mean, it's.
I can send that ordinance to Todd too, combine them, if that's what you want me to do.
I think so.
We can at least review.
Yeah, I think so. Anybody else? Shannon?
no, I think, revisiting this would be good.
Yep.
And I sent it to Tom and let him do it. I had a lot of complaints in my neighborhood. If they were dry, people don't say much because they're gone in a short time and the smoke goes off. When they're wet, it goes this way. So I'm all showing mine now. Chop them up.
Everybody else set with that one? New business? The conditional use application, this is for the adult foster care facility here, 7280 South State Road.
The planning commission reviewed this at their last meeting and moved to send it on to council. They supported the program and looking to you to give a final approval. The applicant is here if anybody has any questions for her. Just to verify the material, the parcel number and the address are listed on here as the location.
Deb, would you like to speak?
If you have any questions. Yeah. It's pretty straightforward. We're in the process of purchasing the building next door. So this is part of our due diligence process. And we have some renovation plans for it to be 2 15-bed specialized AFC facilities for people with disabilities. And you should have the blueprints, and it's fairly extensive renovations on the inside of the building. I knew what was coming next.
The planning commission also directed me to work with LSL. There's not a lot that has to be done on the site plan. So they directed me to work with LSL and the applicant, instead of them having to go back to the planning commission for this or this. They will probably be directed to the zoning board of appeals also for extension of a fence, if that's still
Yes.
something that they're interested in doing. The building has been empty for just about 3 years, and it would be longer than that. A great opportunity for the residents that would be there, as well as the village to not have an empty building.
Question, Mark? I did see in the paper that there was some questions that got brought up about security and whatnot with the building.
Mm-hmm.
The question that I have, is there any state laws that mandate a facility of this nature, how far away from the school it must be?
No. And there's actually no laws that mandate security either. We do it anyway.
No, I wasn't implying that.
Yeah.
Any other questions? We can go forward. Good.
I'm good.
Need a motion?
Need a motion?
Who made it, you or?
Is that what you're looking for? Why do you want me to read this? Make a motion to adopt planning commission's recommendations for new facility located next to us at 7280 South State Road.
Support, that'll work.
Support. You support?
Support.
Mark
Yeah,
supports.
yes.
Hefferty,
Yes.
Maury,
Yes.
Dick,
Yes.
Baldwin.
Yes.
You wanna take the next one?
Yeah, if you would, please.
I'm looking for a motion to hire this company to file the deck action. They have a person that specializes in, insurance claims. The company is, located in Troy. It's a recommendation of Mr. McKinney. We have been working on determining whether or not it might be viable to start this action, and in talking to the attorneys, they have indicated that it has a pretty good, we would have a pretty good chance of winning, or getting some portion of a win. So I'm looking for a motion to hire this company.
And once again, this is all something that's just come to light recently, right?
Pardon me?
This is just something that's come to light recently. This is, recently they've come up with the idea that we can go back and get this done.
After doing the due diligence, if you will, to see whether or not we would have the possibility of winning, yes.
Question, Mr. President. Who is this attorney?
He works, like I say, for this company. The company also, another attorney, is the company attorney for Goodrich. So they have somebody in their firm that specializes in getting that action.
They're familiar with the suit.
I'm not an attorney by no means, I don't try to pretend to be, but would that be a conflict of interest of hiring the,
No, I checked that all out.
I won't finish the question, it's okay, thank you. My next question would be why it wasn't this process. I know, Mr. President, you tried to explain this before that, this is the process now because of the due diligence that we had just done. But if we end up winning this, and would the insurance company then be taking over the lawsuit? Their attorneys?
They would end up paying a portion of it. This is not something that's gonna happen in the near future. I mean, the resolving of it. Well, there's no near future in any of it, but
Right, I'm not asking for specifics of the actual case and trial, but would they be taking over the majority of the lawsuit?
It's hard to say. I mean, I don't know how you could predict that. This is something.
First you have to go through the process, and that could take a while. Meanwhile, the other one could get resolved, so I don't know how to answer your question.
And they may only provide a portion too, you know, we don't know how much it's all. Once again, throw it out there and see what sticks.
Well, I think a deck action should be done. I don't know if hiring this attorney is the right. Again, as one of our residents has stated before, we have an attorney on file that's handled this thing through the get-go, why he isn't the one actually filing for this deck action. Again, this is something I feel that probably should have been done. Just listening to what you guys are saying, that the insurance companies would have the opportunity to be able to pick this up and could have saved the village a ton of money.
There's a lot that have to do with the verbiage too, you know, that's only been recently that they've determined about, I can't get into too much of this, but the word sanitary, you know, they've kind of figured out that's not really part of this lawsuit. Sanitary was never an issue. And that's why the insurance companies wouldn't have anything to do with it in the first place, because of the sanitary savers, not the storms.
And again, this person specializes in this type of action.
The firm is gonna be familiar with it, you know.
Right, I understand the logic behind this, but if we know of this person, why couldn't Tom just go and reach out to this person as in and say, hey, I need you to file this?
He's also suggested that we go this way.
Does we need a motion?
I would make a motion to file a deck action, but not to hire this gentleman.
I think that we should follow the direction of our attorney, go with what he feels is best for us. And I think that would be the smartest, either way you're gonna pay for an attorney's fee.
You have a motion on the floor. If there's not a second, then the motion dies. Right, that was a motion?
Yes.
It was a motion, he doesn't have a second.
I make a motion, we hire Ogden, Albert, and Stewart to file the D action.
We did not get a second for the first motion,
Right.
is that correct?
That is correct.
Support that. So we have a new motion out there, we hire this company. We're looking for support.
I make a motion to support.
Pete and Mark. Did you second?
Pete
Mr.
Reckon.
Horton.
I made the motion. Rick seconded it.
Roll call when you're ready.
Horton,
Yes.
McCafferty,
Yes.
Maury,
Yes.
Vic,
No.
Baldwin.
Yes. We have the resolution 2016-13 to support the Gale Road passing lane. That's a safety project. And if you would, Mrs. Sidger, if you explain.
This application was submitted before by Genesee County Road Commission, and didn't make the qualify, for whatever reason they came up with. So we've asked, Shirley, the supervisor of Balance Township, the school, and myself, are asking the road commission to resubmit this, and all three entities are putting a resolution or a letter of support in, that will be sent to, with the application, to make that corner out there quite a bit safer. And hopefully, they have a little bit different criteria now, so hopefully, this one will make it through. So I'm looking for a motion to approve resolution 2016-13.
Make a motion for resolution 2016-13 to support Gale Eagle Road passing lane safety project.
Support.
Any other discussion? When you're ready.
Horton,
Yes.
McCafferty. Yes. Maury,
Yes.
Vic,
Yes.
Baldwin.
Yes. Last one under new business is the asphalt management proposal, Genesee County Parks and Recreation.
Barry June works for Genesee County Parks and Recreation, and he is responsible for getting bids for the parks trail system, and Shirley asked him to see if we could get added on to that with our pathway. We received two bids. The one I had in your packet, asphalt management, the other one came in today. The asphalt management, after reviewing it with Pete and Mark the other day, Ethan again today, what they're planning to do is includes fixing some of the catch basins along the pathway. And the other bid is $24.37, so for about $800, we can get the catch basins built up and taken care of at the driveways, I think by Mark's house and a couple more on down. So my recommendation is to go with asphalt management. The Parks and Recs are not paying for this. We have $18,000 in the pathway account, so we have the funds to do this. It will seal coat, crack repair, and take care of those catch basins. The pathway has not had any seal coat or anything. We fixed some things here and there since '95, so it's time that we did a little bit to preserve it. So I'm looking for a motion to hire asphalt management and sign this contract.
It's 205, not 95.
Yeah, was just a youngster then.
10 years
205.
off.
11 years ago.
I'll make a motion to approve the asphalt management proposal given to us by Genesee County Parks and Recreation.
Support.
Any discussion?
It's something that needs to be done, it should be sealed, makes it last longer.
They also will be doing, fixing the edge of the pathway also, where the other company was not doing that. This company is out of Flushing.
Anything else?
I need to go back.
Mr. McCaffrey, comments?
No.
Roll call, please.
Horton,
Yes.
McCafferty,
Yes.
Maury,
Yes.
Yes.
Baldwin.
Yes. Other comments?
Mr. Ball, on your treasury report that you approve every month, you have a construction 2013 balance that's still left in that account for $15,168.42. That should be applied to the principal on that bond. We're done with Dutch Road Bridge and Erie Street, so that should be applied. According to the bond itself, that this council approved and signed, it states whatever monies are left on that bond, if there's any balance left, it should be applied to the principal. Would you check into that, please? Thank you.
Yeah, I'd like to ask a question on hospice building. The people that are coming, are they gonna be, has any of them ever been convicted of violent crimes or past criminal behaviors?
So all of them have a mental illness and or a developmental disability, and there could have been a time in their past that they had been arrested of a crime. But they're not there because of that, they're there for treatment for their illness.
What else for their,
Well, either, some people have just a mental illness, some people have a mental illness and a developmental disability.
but they're not a danger?
No. No, they've been assessed to be able to leave whatever their current arrangement is to enter the community.
Which could be jail?
No, they don't come from jail. Usually, a lot of them come from a hospital, or they come from another living arrangement that's just not conducive to their treatment, and so they come to us instead.
Well, the only reason I ask is you said you were doing 3 to 1, is that what your patient care?
Yeah, we do 3-to-1 staffing.
That just seems like a whole lot of staffing and,
Yeah, the state actually only requires 1 to 15, I think it is.
but I'm saying to you, as a business-minded person, that seems like a little overkill unless there's a reason for it.
Well, I mean, we're talking about people with disabilities that are there for care and for treatment. We run a lot of educational groups and groups about their illness and their medications, and they're not there just for housing, just to sit there. I mean, our goal is for them to leave that facility actually and hopefully go to a less, or a more independent setting like an apartment or just a regular group home where they can come and go freely.
Any other comments? Council? Mr. Schmidt, comments?
I'm gonna be here today.
Mr. McCaffrey?
No, I was, at the planning commission meeting when, she was speaking about it, and I was gonna mention that it was a shorter term of duration that the people would be there. It's not permanent housing, so there's gonna be turnover of people who are staying there. Also on their website, they've got, reports reports that you can pull from the state, and the reputation is impeccable. And this is gonna be something that I feel, as a resident of the community, is gonna enhance Goodrich and not hinder it. I think it's a great idea.
Mr. Moore?
I have nothing.
Hope everybody had a good time at the Good Times in Goodrich. I would also like to thank the Goodrich staff. A lot of compliments on you guys helping down there and have success. They did.
One thing I'd add about that, next year the Vietnam War Memorial is gonna be in there on Saturday. So it's gonna bring in probably 2,000 to 3,000 more people.
That's wonderful.
It's been set up to come in next year.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Anything else? Motion to adjourn.
Support.